the most demanding clients are the ones who are the most price focused.
Yeah.
They're really difficult people to work with often. And so it's just more chaos. You keep, just working for them because that's kind of what you think you need to do.
Time is a non-renewable resource. You don't get any more of it, and too many people give their time away.
What about uniforms? When people rock up, are they clean and tidy? Even small things like do all the people smell good?
Because I've got to come once to meet somebody and they price the job, potentially take off work again to meet another person from another company, and by the time I've taken off work 6 times to meet all these different people, which may or may not show up on time, then I've got to still take off work again to have the job done. I'm like, that's not worth it.
Today on the Profitable Tradie podcast. Most business owners undervalue their work, and many do it chronically. When you don't value the work you do, it leads you to charging less than you could and should for the services that you provide. And not charging enough creates profitability and cash flow issues in your business. Tune into this week's podcast where we discuss the 3 critical steps to getting paid what you're worth. Hey, I'm your host, Tony Fraser-Jones, hanging out with my good mate, sidekick Phil Smith. How you going today, big fella?
Yeah, mate, good, always good.
It's good.
You ready to roll?
I am.
Yeah, good. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. What are we talking about today?
Mate, we're talking about pricing and charging what you should for your services and getting paid what you're worth. So pretty juicy topic, and there is a lot to this topic. So you might think it's as simple as increasing your labor charge out rates and material markups, but for many business owners, there's a whole bunch of mental and emotional hang-ups around charging more, which just make it more complicated than that. So, these hang-ups can really lead to challenges around understanding the value of the service that you provide. And honestly, lots of business owners just don't see or understand how valuable what they do is to the people that they do it for.
Yeah, that really frustrates me. And I think it's often the classic thing of, look, it's easy for me to do the work. I know how to do it. It's pretty simple. I've done it, all my life. I can plumb out a house easy, or I can wire up a house or build a garden. And so you just don't see why that should be expensive for someone else. Or sometimes I think, honestly, there's a bit of a sort of blue collar, white collar thing going on. We just don't see that the work we do is actually really valuable. It's like people automatically expect to pay a small fortune to talk to a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon. So why shouldn't they pay a good price for a plumber or an electrician who spent years and years of training as well? And the thing is, for someone who doesn't know how to plumb out a house or to wire a house or put a aircon unit in or whatever it is, that's actually incredibly valuable for them. They just don't have the skill set. They don't know how to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
So today's episode is really understanding that there are 3 key parts to actually charging what you're worth, and that we need to understand each one of those parts to actually make it work.
Cool, and I'm sure you have a story to kick us off.
I do. One of my favorite stories.
Sweet, one I'm excited to hear.
Alrighty, so a few years ago, an engine failed in the flagship vessel of a global shipping company. Now, no one could fix this. For weeks on end, they tried without any success. Not even their brightest engineers could figure out what was going wrong. And every day that this ship was in dock, it was costing them hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. So they called for some help, and they brought in a chap with 30 years of experience on the job. He's an old chap. He inspected the engine from top to bottom, looked it over, and checked everything out. After looking things over, he just reached into his bag and he took out a small hammer, and he went to a specific pipe and he just tapped it really gently, and almost instantly the engine lurched into life, and the engine was fixed, and everyone was happy, and off they went. Now, a week later, the shipping company owners received a bill for $10,000, and they were like, what? They're absolutely outraged. He hardly did anything. Look, tell him to send us an itemized bill. And the itemized bill simply said, tapping the hammer, $50, knowing where to tap, $9,950.
Pretty accurate there for the way that a lot of things go in life, I think. Most of the value is in knowing what to do more than actually doing it. Definitely, the value is in the experience somebody brings just as much as the actions that they take. So I think, obviously a lot of parallels here to what we do here in the trades.
How often have you been asked for an itemized bill because the client wants to dispute the bill?
And more than that, how often have you been, doing something, and honestly, most of the value was the fact that you knew what to do. Like, actually, what you do might not have been particularly difficult at the time, and especially not for you who's done it a million times. But the fact is knowing what to do is actually the thing that you bring to the table, and that's where everyone else would have gone wrong. And so, really, that's the value, and that's it's really in the experience and the knowledge. So,
that's right.
Very relevant.
Someone has to pay for all the training that went into it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's funny, it's a similar story of the locksmith, right? And it's $300 to change the lock. Little old lady says, well, why am I paying you $300? And he says, well, $50 for the lock, and it's $250 for me knowing how to change a lock. It took 10 years for me to be this fast, so
That's right.
hurry up. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do it yourself if you want.
Yeah, I can spend 2 hours on it if you want.
Yeah, that's right. If we don't actually know how to get paid what we're worth, and we don't know how to charge what we're worth, we're going to run into some big problems.
We are, and this is, not getting paid what you're worth is a huge problem for most business owners. And the first thing is that it's quite awkward. You actually feel awkward about charging enough or asking for money when you know that maybe you should be getting more, and you just feel like it's a bit off or a bit rude to ask. So that's one thing. If you don't get paid what you're worth, though, you do make less profit than you should, and you have less cash flow. Your cash flow gets tight, and there are a bunch of hassles with that. So first off, there's not enough money to invest back in your business, so you can't hire more good people. You can't pay the people you've got well. You can't put good systems in your business. Maybe you want to get some new technology or some new equipment, bigger premise, whatever it is. It's really hard to do that if it's a hand-to-mouth existence. You're just really reticent to spend any money. If you don't know what you're worth, you do price work from your own wallet. I know how to do this. It's easy, so I could never charge that much. That's something that happens. And here's the real thing that I think often is misunderstood. If you're time poor and you're too busy, it's because you can't buy your time back. You haven't got the resources to actually get people to help you do stuff. And you're scared to spend money on getting help because you're like, well, I'm already skint. If I just get more people, I'll be bigger skint.
Yeah.
I'll be bigger broke.
You scale up the drama.
You scale up the drama and the chaos. And often what happens too, the most demanding clients are the ones who are the most price focused.
Yeah.
They're really difficult people to work with often. And so it's just more chaos. You keep, just working for them because that's kind of what you think you need to do. Where in actual fact, if you put the price up, some of them might actually sod off, which would be good.
Yeah. Plus, you start to attract people that probably a little bit more time up their sleeve, a little bit more hit space. The money's not such a drama. I mean, you basically get the opposite, which is what we should dig into now, because if we get this right, some big opportunities.
You have a lot more confidence about actually charging the price that you need to get, or a fair price. That's huge. You make more profit. It's really simple. If you increase your price by 10%, that's 10% profit.
Yeah.
It goes straight to the bottom line. There's no more on
your
a job.
Expenses don't go up with it.
Your labor doesn't go up. Your materials don't go up. It just goes into your bank account as profit. You're going to have money to invest back in your business. So you're actually going to be on the front foot. You'll have confidence to maybe get that piece of software, or get that new van or ute, or the new digger, or whatever it is to make the business move more quickly. And maybe it's some pricing software, which will really help things. You can actually take that money that you make and invest it into wealth creation. You can build up some shares or property or other equity outside of your business, which gives you financial freedom, which is amazing. And the most important thing for me is you can actually start buying time back, because you're actually in a position to get more team members and more help to make things easier for you, so you can buy some time back, work on some different stuff, and more importantly, you can spend more time with your family and your friends and doing the stuff you like, because life is not just about working. It's actually about living life, and making good margins is a very, very important part of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, if you got no money because you're making no margins, it's going to be pretty hard to live a good life. A bigger life anyway, basically, because how can you afford to do it? It's just pretty tough. As you say, you're hand to mouth. So how do we actually do this? How do we get paid what we're worth?
To me, there's three parts here, and they're kind of like three circles. If you draw them together, they need to overlap to get value pricing. And being able to get paid what you're worth, the value that you need to receive is about, first off, what we call value belief. That's, do you believe that your service is worth it? That's the first thing. So you got to believe it. The second thing is what we call value contribution, which is, did you actually do a good job? That's important. And the last thing, obviously critically important, is what we call value perception, is, did the client think it was worth it? Did they think it was valuable? So there's like a 3-part test here. Did you think it was worth it? Was it worth it? And did the client think it was worth it? And we need all of those to get maximum value.
Yeah, totally. So let's pull these apart one by one. Let's start with value belief.
So value belief is where we kick off, and that really means, do you believe that the service you provided was worth it? Do you value the work you do highly? And I'm going to be honest here, in our work with thousands of business owners, a lot of people actually struggle to see how valuable what they do is. They have some challenges around the fact that maybe it's a blue-collar type job. Maybe they weren't very good at school, and therefore they're not worth to get paid what a doctors get paid. and they price it out of their own pocket. It's easy for me to do. Why would anyone else see this as being valuable? It's really frustrating and holds people back. And the thing is, with the work you do, the value is actually in the ambiguity. And what I mean by that is people don't really understand, how to do what you're doing, so they should pay for it. They just don't get it.
And, they don't understand that time and money are the only resources that we have. So, time is a non-renewable resource. You don't get any more of it. And too many people give their time away. They're given free advice, basically turning up and pricing jobs for free as if their time's worth nothing, and they shouldn't start, charging until basically they're actually doing the work. But, they're ignoring all the work that goes around that. And I think that's a real big miss. It's basically just another way of not believing that your experience is valuable, which is a real shame, because actually everything that went into the job before you technically started is still a use of your time and experience and expertise. And really that's just as valuable as everything else, if not more valuable, So really important that, people charge a service fee for problem diagnosis. A doctor would, so why wouldn't you? Because you're actually working off the same principle. So really, really important that you charge for that time and that expertise everywhere that you provide it. Don't give free quotes or bids, just charge for that. Why not? But basically start to value the time and experience you got. And lastly as well, you get poor money attitudes is a big thing here. So, a lot of people will feel like, I don't want to be rich, or it feels weird to ask for money. Basically, it's, they might have grown up in a situation where their relationship with money or their family's relationship with money wasn't great. Maybe they never had much money, and now they feel weird that they're actually making any money, and they feel like an imposter or that they don't deserve it. So a lot of psychology which goes into this, right?
Yeah, there is. I think money attitudes are a big thing, and we do, as you said, we pick them up from early days. And there's often an attitude that I don't want to be rich, or somehow that people who are wealthy have done something kind of maybe underhand or sneaky to get there, which in my experience is not the case at all. There might be the odd person, but those people actually have, they've learnt, work hard, and they do things that other people don't do. It is important to get comfortable with asking for money and knowing that you're worth it, because if you don't get that right, then everything else won't follow, because you won't ask for it because you don't believe you're worthy of it. And so this is a big shift. And if you're finding this, in your business, if you're listening, you are worth it. You deserve to be paid well. You are a service provider. You do a great job. So, make sure that you ask for that, because you really do deserve it.
All right. And let's get into the second circle. So we'll talk value contribution.
Yeah. So the second circle is value contribution. But basically that means is, did you do an excellent, high quality job? In other words, did you solve the problem and deliver the result that the client wanted?
Yeah, basically. And really, when we get into this, we get into the big three, the iron triangle, which is quality, timeline, and budget. So, obviously there's value to be provided in each one of these factors. So the value contribution you make is firstly the quality that you provide and the workmanship that you actually do. Secondly is the timeline. So did you come in a reasonable time frame? Maybe it was in time for a certain event of theirs, or, they needed to get it done before Christmas or whatever it might be. So there's a timeline in there, you didn't drag it out. And lastly, budget. So, especially if you provided a price in advance, a bid or a quote, tender, something like that, you've provided a budget in advance. Did you stick to that? Did you come in on price, on time, on quality? If you can deliver those three things, you've delivered value. It's really that simple.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Which leads to the third circle.
The third circle is value perception. So this is a tricky one in a way, and often this is where people fall down. This means, did the client think that it was worth it, and did the client think that it was valuable? I often find a story helps me understand this one. Everyone knows that you would pay more for a BMW than you would for a Toyota. Because we as clients perceive that there is actually more value in a BMW. We just know that it's a better car. It has a better image and all that sort of thing. Even though Toyotas are actually, I hate to admit this, they're still pretty good cars. They do the job, right?
I don't know why you hate to admit it. Don't lie about the Honda.
I know you've got a nice people mover.
I love my people mover.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Steamer. So, but they're both cars, and they will happily get us from A to B. No problem at all. But we will pay more for the BMW because as clients, we perceive that it is more valuable. It's the same with your service. And that's the big shift here. We have to actually help our clients understand that as a service provider, we are providing more value to them. It's our job to make sure that they perceive the value rather than just leaving it up to chance. And there is a lot of stuff we can do to help them feel like the service we've provided and the job we've done is actually a really, really good job.
Yeah, totally. And I think another way that people will perceive value, if you think about emergency repair work, there's a lot of value, especially perceived value, having an emergency averted or solved in a timely manner. So you think about like flooding in your house. I mean, super easy for a client to perceive value. If you can stop the flooding, this is huge for them because it limits the amount of damage that flooding is going to cause. It limits the amount of unlivability of their house. And basically they would do just about anything to have this solved as quickly as possible, especially if what it's flooding with is not water. So, in this case, people will pay more for that type of work. They need it fixed now and it matters a lot to them. So the value perception is extremely high.
Correct. And so you would charge accordingly. Well, you should be actually charging accordingly, not just because the value perception's high, but because it's going to cost you more to provide the service anyway.
Not to mention, what's it going to cost them to shop against your price and shop around? Because every second they spend calling other people and comparing prices is actually costing them more and further damage of their house. So.
Correct. And another example might be a large industrial processing plant who has an electrical fault. If that plant is shut down, like the ship's engines, it's going to cost the business tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars while it's broken down. So price is not really an issue.
Yeah.
And the perception of value is massive because what's the alternative? So that's huge. Perception is critical. And there is something here that's actually really important to understand. And it's what niches or type of work are you doing? Because I'm going to be honest, there are some niches, and we kind of know what they are, which are actually really difficult to really demonstrate value to the client. And they tend to be incredibly competitive markets. So an example of that might be commercial construction. They're large tenders, large construction companies, general contractors, builders. And often there's actually not much that you can do to really create a high price and a high margin for your work. You are effectively a price taker. I mean, there may be a little bit you can do with relationships and all that sort of thing that can help, but it's often limited. And often in those markets, it comes down to price. And so if you're really wanting to get paid what you're worth, sometimes you have to be really clear on the market you're in. And is that a market that will bear good margins? Because there's lots that will, but there's some that aren't. And if you're in one that doesn't, you're actually pushing the proverbial uphill with a fork.
Yeah, definitely. I've always heard the saying, it's like trying to push on a string. It's pretty hard work. So yeah, you definitely don't want to be in those price taker industries. You want to be in a price maker industry where you set the price and people pay it because, they can and it's worth it, and that's the way things go. So that's where you want to be. Next one for me is sending your invoice and trying to get paid quickly so that people are still in pleasure mode and gratefulness mode or gratitude mode from the job. They're happy with what's happened. Their problem has been solved. They're out of the proverbial, and as a result, they're stoked. And with that comes a lot more likelihood of being willing to pay more and being happy about it because, they're really, really happy with what's just happened. On the other hand, if you wait too long and you let that blow out, like we said, the client's never going to be happier than when you've just finished. So as that's wearing off, if they get the bill ages later and they were unaware how much it's going to be, they'll be less likely to want to pay a higher price if you've let that basically die out and let all the shine wear off. So
it's basic psychology, isn't it? If you send the invoice much later, they're now in pain. Pleasure's finished, it's all pain. I've got to pay money now. And so that really tips the psychological scales, and it is much more difficult to create the value perception.
Yeah, 100%. So look, bunch of other ways we can build value perception. Should we do a bit of quick fire?
Let's do that. And this is the key thing here is that you can actually create more value perception by actually doing this stuff. And one thing is like understanding that people do judge a book by its cover. And so what does your social media look like? Do you have a great social media presence? Is it active? Does it show lots of cool finished jobs, and does it look professional? Now, if someone hits your website, is it professional? Does it look like a high quality outfit? When people see your vans driving around town or your trucks, are they clean and tidy? Are they well sign written? Are they relatively modern, or if they're really clapped out and stuff, that doesn't really say value perception. It says kind of budget operation. What about uniforms? When people rock up, are they clean and tidy? Even small things like, do all the people smell good? I know it sounds silly, but all this stuff helps build the perception, the image, the brand, which then allows you to, charge higher prices.
I don't think that sounds silly at all, Tony. I mean, if somebody turns up to my house to come inside and they smell like it, I'm like, I'm here for you to get the smell out, not to bring it in with you. So, I mean, this is pretty important.
It is. And in a similar way, what's the social proof you have about your business? So that's things like case studies and testimonials and reviews. Now, if you have 20 online reviews, 5-star reviews, that's good. If you have 50, that's better. If you have 100, that's even better. If you have 500, that's incredible. It's overwhelming social proof that your business is a high-quality operation, that you can be trusted, that you'll do what you say you'll do. Even some video testimonials or case studies of bigger projects that can really make a huge difference. And the next one is, what's your inquiry process? So when people first hit your business, now whether they send an email or they ring up, how is it dealt with? Now, if you've got someone who answers the phone, they answer it within 3 seconds, they answer it with a smile, they have a script, and they sound professional and helpful, it makes a huge difference because people are always a bit nervous, looking for a service provider. And so it makes them feel like they've landed on the mothership, that this is a really professional setup.
Yeah.
Right,
I'm in good hands.
I'm in good hands.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to make me feel a lot more confident about what's happening, a lot more happy to pay a higher price because I'm in good hands. My problem's going to be solved and I'm going to be dealt with care. Someone answers that badly, that same inquiry process, and I'm going to feel like this is some kind of cowboy operation and I'm about to get shafted here one way or another. So that's not what you want. Look, another one for me is, do you have really good supporting documents you can use, like a great company profile or the likes, brochure, or even just really nice, well-presented one-page card, that tells all about what you do. But I mean, ideally, a good company profile that's going to show, a bit of a showcase of your business, like a prospectus. So you can use that during your sales process and demonstrate value in what you do and who you are. It's really going to make a difference. Next one, speed of pricing and the quality of follow-up. So for me, speed of pricing is huge. You can always charge more if you can charge quickly. Mainly, first thing is people don't have time to shop around. And secondly is that a lot of people actually see a huge amount of value in their own time. And the people that will pay more will definitely value their own time. So they don't want to waste their own time trying to get a price out of you. So the quicker you can price, the more value they see in that. Great example of this for me. Recently had some work done on my own house. And when I'm calling around inquiring about getting this work done, basically everybody said, oh, we'll send somebody out to try and come and price the work for you. And I'm like, look, can you just give me a ballpark of what it's going to cost? Or can you just do it on charge up? Honestly, because I just want to get started. And what they were missing was that it was worth more to me to just pay whatever and only have to take off work once to let you in than to follow their process and have to take off work twice because I've got to come once to meet somebody and they price the job, potentially take off work again to meet another person from another company. And by the time I've taken off work 6 times to meet all these different people, which may or may not show up on time, then I've got to still take off work again to have the job done. I'm like, that's not worth it to me. I want to take off work once, if that. I'd rather just leave a key out, honestly. So,
yeah, well, in a similar way, we're working on a renovation project at the moment in one of our investment properties, and it's taking the builder weeks and weeks and weeks to get the price back to us. And this is someone we've used several times before. And, Brom, my wife, is actually questioning whether we want to use the person because it's just taking so long. What's the story? We'd rather just get a price and get it done.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, and then when we get to the follow-up, again, the quality of the follow-up, it's like, are you checking in with me? Are you keeping me in the loop? Are you letting me know, where we're at? If I haven't made a decision, are you making that easier for me to make? This is actually huge because sometimes if someone had followed up, I'd have been like, great, sweet, I forgot about that. Cool, let's get it done. And now I'm going to be kicking myself instead because you didn't follow me up and now I've missed my opportunity and now I'm pissed at myself, but I'm also pissed at you.
It's an interesting one, this, isn't it? Because often as service providers, we're like, we don't want to seem too pushy. We don't want to follow them up and put any pressure on them. But the reverse, I can tell you, guaranteed is true.
Yeah.
If you follow up and you do it promptly, you are much more likely to convert them. They're much more likely to think it's good service because the job gets done and they can see that you're professional and you're onto it.
Yeah, the only people that think you're being pushy are the people that honestly were never going to do it in the first place. The people that were always going to make a purchase or could have been willing to make a purchase, they won't see follow-up as pushy. They'll see it as good customer service. The only people even going to throw that back in your face are people that were tire kickers anyway. So don't feel bad about it. And then for me, the next one's guarantees. So honestly, it's all the stuff you would do anyway. Like, we show up on time, we communicate clearly, we leave, the job clean and tidy when we leave, we tidy up after ourselves, that kind of stuff. You would do it anyway. But if you don't say it, it hasn't been said. It doesn't go without saying, it hasn't been said. And as a result, it's, up for grabs. People don't know if it's going to happen. Whereas if I put it down in words and call it a 7-point guarantee, that means something to the client because I'm going to stand by it. I've guaranteed I'm going to do this. And that actually means a lot because I guarantee nobody else said it. And therefore, that's up in the air. It may or may not happen in the client's eyes. So that builds a lot of value.
Yeah, you can create a 7-point guarantee, which basically you take what you're going to do anyway and write it up, make it a nice certificate. And we do this with lots of our members and it's a whole different ball game because it's like, wow, there's this guarantee that nobody else has. I can see why these guys are worth it. Related to that is the building of relationships. So I think that's massive. That we may be thinking about just your bigger clients here. If you actively build relationships and social ties with those people, that can help massively. It binds you together, creates some reciprocity, and they actually value the relationship as well as the service you're providing. You can also do it on a large scale. If you've got lots of service clients, hundreds or thousands of them, you can do it via social media and your email. You start building a personality and a connection to your brand, which people identify with. Way less likely to go somewhere else, and they'll pay a little premium for working with you because they know, like, and trust you, which is the whole point of this process.
Yeah, totally. And I think, when we're on those key relationships, systems and processes can make a huge difference with those key relationships as well. So particularly with your B2B clients, builders, property managers, the likes of that, when you're looking at these types of clients, honestly, when they see your systems and processes, maybe your QA, your quality assurance process, this is how we make sure that we never miss anything and we leave all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. Maybe the different job management software you use. If you can demo this to these potential clients, in a B2B sector during your sales meetings, it shows that you're a really professional outfit and that you will not let them down because you're organized. You've got systems and processes. Things work the right way the first time, every time with you, and therefore you're a safe bet. You're not going to hold up their other sub-trades. You're not going to screw up this big project for everybody. Basically you're going to be the one to trust, and therefore it's worth paying you a little more than your competitors.
It is, and all of this stuff creates a point of difference in the customer's mind so they can see why they might actually have to just pay a little bit more. In fact, they won't even question it. They won't notice it. They won't be questioning it because the service and the experience is so good. And they happily pay that because they perceive, as you said, Phil, less risk and a better result for them. And that may be the actual job done well physically, but it's also the way you make them feel. And this is really important. If people like working with you, they'll actually pay for that. I mean, often the people you work with are just not that much fun. If you think about it, it's a bit like this, the experience. If you like an ethnic takeaway, which I do, it's Indian, Thai, whatever it is, delicious food, amazing food, so tasty, absolutely, delicious to eat. But you'd expect to pay more at a 5-star restaurant where the food often is still super tasty, but it's not necessarily that much more tasty, but it's a whole experience. You go there, the maitre d' shows you in, you get a drinks menu, all that sort of stuff. There's the nice music. It's a whole evening of an experience. And so that's the difference. You'd pay more for that. But the food is maybe not that much different.
And best Thai food I've ever had was out of a food truck. I've got to be honest.
That's exactly right.
In terms of taste.
It's just a quick takeaway meal, but you definitely pay more for the 5-star service.
Oh, 100%. Because as you say, it's the experience. It's the way you're made to feel. It's not just the taste in your mouth.
100%. So our job then as business owners is actually to teach our clients that we're worth it.
Yeah.
And that's the value perception right there.
100%. So let's land this plane.
Alrighty. Getting paid what you're worth makes a huge difference to the success of your business. Now, great margins allow you to buy your time back and invest in the growth of your business. And there are 3 key pillars to making this happen. Number 1, believe you're worth it. Number 2, do a great job. And number 3, teach your clients how to understand the value that you add. Thanks heaps for listening. We'll catch you all again next time.
See you later.